So it's review time again. Thought I'd give you a quick look at this Prime Cyberverse Megatron, seen as I showed you Optimus and Starscream before. I'm sort of digging doing reviews of these little guys, especially with my new camera. I can get a really good look and just show you all the nice detail that seems to be standard in these Cyberverse figures now. This is how he's packaged in robot mode with this big sword on his arm. I like that, it's done well. It's just a translucent purpley bit of plastic and it just plugs into his hand right there. So it just sticks out of his arm like that. You can have him hold it. It does fit in his hand. So you can have a normal sword. Or on the back of this arm, you'll see there's a little port in there. And that fits that. So you can go that way as well. I'll take that off in a minute and just show you the figure itself. It's really nicely detailed. Got loads of good sculpted stuff in the body there, all the bits on his chest, teeny tiny Decepticon symbol in there. The face is done really well as well. It's got those eyebrows, lovely red eyes, and I think it's probably a bit more show accurate than the larger version, just because his face is darker than the rest of his head. It's done really well. Otherwise the figure is pretty similar to the larger version actually. Of course it hasn't got the big gimmick with the cannon, but it's there. A lot easier to pose him with it, simply because it doesn't get in the way of his shoulders, because his shoulders work properly on this version. They're actually, well, his shoulders. You've got really nice range of movement with the arms. They move back as well because of transformation, so that's good. Legs are good too, nice knees. It's just got everything you need really. The one thing I really do like about this figure though, and what I wanted to show off, is the way it's just painted so nicely. All of this silver on the arm, that's all shiny. All the purple paint apps are shiny as well. Really nicely detailed along with that paint. It just looks really good. The plastic is about the same sort of shade of silvery grey as the larger version, but somehow it seems carried off a bit better with the contrast with the darker grey parts. Of course the chest is translucent, so a lot like the larger version, but without any kibble on the back. You just get the light shining through perfectly and it really does glow. Coming around the back as well, you see there's a little post here that you can store the blade on. It will flop about quite a bit. Of course, without all the kibble on his back, you do get show accurate detailing. That is nice. There's so much detail crammed into this little guy. I'll give you a little size comparison now. There he is with the Cyberverse Optimus, so he's a little bit taller, which I suppose is accurate. But put him next to Starscream, and Starscream is considerably taller, I think. It's fair to say. He's probably going to end up as being the tallest Cyberverse figure. These guys look really good together. I think the Cyberverse scale is probably what I'm going to be putting my money into the most. I think it allows you to have really nice representations of the characters that are actually pretty accurate for the sort of size you're getting here. So far some of the bigger figures have sort of put me off. I don't really want the Voyager Optimus that's out at the moment. So little dudes like this make the perfect substitute. Speaking of larger figures, here's a quick little look at little and large together. So there you've got the Voyager version compared to the little Cyberverse dude. And to be honest, they look so similar, and they're such... the proportions on both of these are sort of dead on with each other. This figure is just... it almost really does feel like a downsize of that. But of course the transformation is rather different. And I'll show you that now. Need to straighten his arms up, move them to the back, and you take the gun piece here rotate it up and in, and that will peg in the port on his arm. So that is basically the setup for the top of the vehicle mode. And now he's like this, just come down the front and just lift his torso up. Split these chest pieces, just like the larger version, revealing all this extra purple stuff underneath. Angle them down and they will come together like that. And then just flatten everything out like that. So that makes the front end. Next you take the legs, put them out to the side, and there is a joint inside the leg down here which allows you to angle them round and tab in one of the toes with this purple piece. So there you have little Megatron in his little spaceplane mode, which is rather nice. Of course it's not as accurate as the larger version. You've got his shoulders here, you've got his hands out the back, but then you've got his hands out the back on the larger one. The gun is sort of in there, his face is just there like that, but the top of his head would poke out anyway. I like the way they've sort of worked the chest transformation like that. It's a little bit more complex than what you'd expect for a figure of this size, but of course this mode is sort of where the figure falls down a bit, but I'm not going to say it's bad, because it still captures the right sort of shape and feel of what this vehicle mode should look like, and of course you get a kibble-free robot, so I think that's worth it for the sacrifices made for this vehicle mode. You can go and plug the sword in on the top for storage, or just to make it look a bit stranger than it already is. Here's a quick shot of Megatron and Starscream together. I think they go together as well as any spaceship and jet plane normally would. Starscream does seem a little bit bigger, but then he has got a massive cockpit. So there's your little look at Cyberverse Megatron. All in all, I would say go and pick this guy up, especially if you can find one a bit cheaper. That's always the best thing to do with these sort of Cyberverse figures. While he's good, I wouldn't say he's worth the full price you pay. He is pretty basic, but you get a good robot that is really pretty show accurate. So even if you do have the larger version, like me, I still think it's a good buy, especially if you like the design as much as I do. And now that Prime figures are actually more properly on shelves, I think now's a good time to start hunting and bag yourself some bargains.